Welcome, everyone. This is Fine Needles, and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in LOTRO and here at LOTRO Players. And this week we have with us Terry Adwin,
Hi, hi.
Sanswinda,
Hello.
Querendus,
Hello, everyone.
Kilabathian,
Hey, hey.
and Arendus.
Hey, everybody.
Hello there, and this week we've got a busy week here because we have a quest pack review. So let's though start out with some release notes, because we had the release of update 27.2. Now, we've went over a great deal of this before, so I'm not going to go into details on everything. But of course, the big thing is that Helm's Deep arrived onto the legendary worlds. Thus, now you could head into the Western Rohan area and do everything up to the areas of Helm's Deep, and I presume also the post Helm's Deep Isengard stuff also, since that's in the same level. They usually bring that out together. Now, they do have a note, though, that there is an issue with epic battles on the legendary worlds. Thus, they turned them off on the legendary worlds, and they did make a note that at least you can finish up the epic story, because we do have the story tales where you could participate in some other aspect of it. I've not yet done the story tales. I will do that for the first time with my Warden on Honor when I get to there. In addition to that, yes?
Oh, I was gonna say that I'm guessing that the reason that they're having issues with the epic battles is because they're supposed to scale you to what originally was level 95 because it was level cap, but then they raised it, and so it's scaling past where the level cap currently is on the server.
Ooh, I did not think of that, but of course that would be the problem. Because they would have done any testing for any updates they did on Bulwer, which has a level cap of 130, so it wouldn't have been noticed.
Yeah.
Yes, that's most likely the issue then. So they'll have to get some sort of issue to fix up the issues of epic battles because of how they are scaling currently.
This epic battle isn't very epic. It's so easy. why,
Yeah.
why are we having trouble defending Helm's Deep? It's 10,000 to 300. It's fine. I'm taking out like 1,000 at a time. This should take 10 minutes.
If only it was actually that easy.
Yes. If only it was that easy. That's the thing, though, about defending a stronghold, is that if 300 could hold off 10,000, it would be because they were in a very, very good stronghold position there. And that's one thing about sieges in Tolkien, is they last such a short amount of time compared to how long Real World was, but it doesn't make good story if it lasts for 5 months. Unless the story is about lasting for 5 months, which you can't afford to do in The Quest for the Ring.
This is Tolkien we're talking about, and
Yeah.
he has this long descriptive thing going, so it might take just overnight for this siege, but the way he writes it, you'll be reading it for 5 months. So
You got a point there. I guess because he thought, well, he was through World War One. And I guess he didn't want to put his readers through that. It was probably a good idea. Next item we have on here is Rohan Housing is now available. The Lord of the Rings Online is expanding its premium player housing options with the new homesteads set in Rohan. These new homesteads evoke two quintessential Rohan experiences, Kingstead Meadow and Eastfold Hills. Kingstead Meadows features living on the grassy plains and farmlands, while Eastfold Hills features living in the rugged and wooded foothills. Each neighborhood has an assortment of deluxe-style properties along with two unique properties, a large mead hall and a deluxe-style property with an extra interior, such as one that has the Gondorian ruin in it. The Rohan housing brokers are also selling over 50 new housing items purchasable with in-game gold. Rohan housing is available to purchase from the Rohan housing brokers named Berginda and Selaflot in Edoras and Snowborn, as well as the Eastfold Hills and Kingstead Meadows homesteads. On top of this, they give a list of some of the items that have been added to housing, such as hitching posts, which is a new hook that allows you to show off your mounts from your collection. Cosmetic pets, where cosmetic pets can be hooked into most interior and exterior hooks. So we're going to be seeing many people's favorite cosmetic pets appear at their houses. Movable light sources. These new hooks allow players to light rooms the way you want. I should note that most of these are only available in Rohan housing, but the cosmetic pets thing, I believe, is available in all housing systems. Fire pit hooks. This is a new and uniquely sized hook for the Rohan mead halls. Column hooks. The column hook acts like wallpaper option for columns within the new Rohan mead halls. New per housing storage. This is a new housing storage option that is separate from the shared housing storage. Kinship visit feature. Players are designated as primary residents and allows kinmates to visit for the actually kinship visit feature has been in since 27, hasn't it been there? Is when they added that one in?
Yeah, but it has some bugs.
Well, yeah, there is that. Multiple interiors. Each Kingstead homestead has a main house and a barn, and both neighborhoods have a single homestead of a unique additional interior, which we mentioned that earlier. Neighborhood reputation. Rohan homesteads are the first homesteads that each have their own reputation. How about that? Where homeowners can advance their neighborhood notoriety in the community while unlocking new housing items and player titles. And cosmetic pets, per housing storage, and the kinship visit feature are available in every home, while the others are exclusive to Rohan. So you say that there are some bugs relating to the kinship visit feature?
Well, there were previously. I think they finally got them ironed out.
Okay, good. And we also have class changes, which we pretty much talked to death, I think, in previous episodes. I don't know if anyone noticed anything here that we hadn't talked about, because mainly about getting those additional skills at level 20 in order so that to make it some people easier to interrupt and also to be able to cleanse corruptions as early as level 20.
I was noticing that. I was like, wait a minute, didn't we already talk about all this?
Oh,
This
yeah,
seems
yeah.
really familiar.
Yes. We did have the Bulwer build on this, and the Bulwer build where we discussed it on Bulwer. Now, this is, of course, officially released. I should note also that with this update, they are going to be trying to get the release notes onto LOTRO.com instead of posting it in text form in the forums. And Cordovan is hoping to eventually get all the release notes into LOTRO.com and have a nice, easy, searchable system so that'll be easy to access whichever ones you have, whichever
Nice.
ones you wish to access. But it does say that he doesn't feel that the system that's being done on the forums is working all that well because it's harder in order to look through the archives and all. On top of this, he wants to make it consistent with what they're doing in the other game, because in the other game, they apparently have been using DDO.com for a while in order to place their release notes. Now, back to release notes themselves. Crafting, character XP granted in planting fields has been made more consistent across the fields of tiers, so they've reduced the time for the actual planting phase. So rest of the farming items are still granting the same XP. And the flared hanging lantern and ornate hanging lantern housing decorations Midsummer Festival are now hanging in appropriate height by default when placed on ceiling hooks.
By the way, about the Midsummer thing, I noticed that the travel destination to Midsummer, Minas Tirith, is actually still available in Southern Bree.
Yeah.
How long are they going to have that open for? I guess it's, I can understand why, because people may need to like go and, still buy stuff with some of their leftover,
Oh no, you can't, because the vendors are gone. But
well, then
the
why is it
Minas
still
Tirith
there?
is still there.
Wedding.
Because it's part of the epic storyline
Yeah,
now. The wedding and the feast is.
Wedding's the epic story.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So you can always go there. You just can't do Midsummer stuff. But
Okay.
it basically means that low-level people can access a version of Minas Tirith regardless of what level they are. So look forward to seeing like concerts and things in empty Minas Tirith, or empty-er Minas Tirith, I should say.
Yes, that means the Blue Theater. I know some people have been occasionally using the Blue Theater, I think, for performances, but the trouble is, of course, low-level people have trouble getting there.
Right.
So now they could do something in the Blue Theater and not have to worry about it, because I think the Blue Theater is probably the fanciest theater we've got in LOTRO right now.
Yeah, it is.
Well, that one in Erebor is gorgeous, but once again, you run into how do you get the low-level people there?
Yeah.
Right.
That too.
I also just like the idea of shame you couldn't see it in better times. And it's like, let me just take this little horse.
All right, let's have a look at it in better times.
At least the NPCs in Midsummer don't tell you shame you couldn't see it in better times.
Oh boy, if that clip were in there for
I was waiting for it because I had an NPC go, Gondor needs your aid, and I'm like, what now?
They need your aid to help in the wedding to make it successful.
What's happening now? Do I not get a vacation?
Since when has your character gotten a vacation?
That's what I mean.
True. We've never gotten a vacation.
Yeah. Your character, whenever you are given a vacation, you have a busman's holiday. That's what you've got. Now, in the LOTRO store, they were hoping to get the character race change in for this update, but there was just one more bug that they decided that wasn't quite, that they decided that it would be dangerous for them to put it in because they were afraid that if this bug were in there when they released it, that it's possible it would be impossible to undo it for the characters that were created before then. So they decided, even though they were planning, they even put in the release notes to have the race changes here. Afterwards, they decided, no, we can't do it. So they added in, it says, coming soon. They do hope to have it for next week because they are planning a patch for next week, and they do hope to have the race changes in there, assuming they get this all fixed up.
So, if it's a dangerous bug, is it a murder hornet?
Actually, I thought I heard something about it had to do with, so say you have a Hobbit Warden and you decide to be a High Elf Warden. Your horse would still be a pony? So, I think it has something to do with, like, the mounts, like the mounts were switching or something. I don't know if this is true. I wasn't on board and didn't play with it. That's just what I heard. But that could be dangerous because you scrape all the skin off your knees.
Yes.
I just have visions of like a grown man in like a little like Barbie pink like toy little car just.
Or I suppose vice versa. I mean,
it would be really cool if it worked the other way, though. You might not get dismounted all the time.
They have to find you first.
Yeah, it did have something to do with mounts. I don't know the details of it, but I was guessing that it had something to do with them assigning the wrong mount, assigning you the old mount instead of the new one if you change your size significantly. Anyone from Bulwer might be able to respond to that in the comments so that we may know what that was all about. Assuming that there's no one in the chat doing that.
Of course, I guess it could be worse, and it could have been a
Yeah.
clothing issue when you change from big to small to small to big, like we were discussing.
Hey, Ranger, I really do need those pants.
Let me give you back my shield, because I really need your pants now. Something looks different with you. Yeah, I grew like 4 feet. Or shrank 4 feet, either way.
Yeah, that is a bit of a problem.
That would be kind of a problem if your pants don't fit anymore.
Yeah. Well, as soon as they get that resolved, then we're hoping the character race change will be because for some reason, some people are really anxious to get out there and change their race. I guess the ones who want to be stout axes or high elves might be one to, for example, there might be some people who are playing captains who had really wished to have played an elf captain, but they couldn't, so they made a human captain instead, and now they could rectify that situation with a race change token.
By adding pointy ears.
Yes, I was a high elf in disguise all along.
So I'm just wondering how, if the cost there, is that going to be like, why would you want to even buy a high elf now if you can just like do a human, which is free, and then change it for less?
I have a feeling you have to buy the race. I think if you don't have the race available, you can't change that race.
Okay.
I mean, that would be logical.
Logic? There is no logic here. All is
Yes. But if you have a high-level captain that you've been playing for the last 10 years, that you've invested a huge amount in it, and you don't want to go around valoring because it's not the same as if it were the character you've been investing in all this time. So I could see maybe that's the reason for it or something like that. Or, of course, if you come to, oh boy, I regret this race change. I really don't like this race. Let me change it to something I like.
Why change? Come, join the rejects. We accept you as you are.
Yes. Also in the LOTRO store, actually this time actually available now, is a Rohan housing set bundle that contains numerous cosmetic items for your homestead. So a little bit of a starter set.
Rohan-themed crafting stations.
Oh yes, Rohan-themed crafting station. That's a nice thing to have.
And a wooden tower to keep watch from. I wish you could climb it, though.
Oh, you can't climb it?
No.
Oh.
Come on, SSG.
So because you get to climb when you see, because you have the tower and the stone tower, I think, in one of them where.
Oh well, no, that the housing one, yes, but no, the with the Rohan housing set. It has
that
a wooden tower for your yard. Yeah.
Ah, okay. So you have a wind tower in there, but you can't climb. Well, I don't think they've made any way in which to be able to interact in that way with a housing item. Maybe someday if enough people request it. When they have time.
Can they also, for the next midsummer thing, can they make the well so we can jump down it and maybe like, I don't know, land somewhere interesting? I mean, make it be like a random place where we land, just,
I mean, if
You
they're
land
gonna
in the
warn us to
cisterns.
not jump down it, we should totally be able to jump into the cisterns.
That was the one that was the thirsty seer, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. We should be able to jump down that well. I agree.
I mean, and I would love it to be like the mysterious hole where you can jump down it and just you randomly wind up in some random underground place. That would be kind of fun. Just jump down this well and you wind up in some random underground place.
Yeah.
Well, they already have a hole like that though.
Yeah. Now the question is, did they clear out all of the lizards that were down there? If not, I could just imagine a level
Nah,
10
keep it
person looking
dangerous.
around.
Keep it dangerous. There's
Jump
a
down
reason
at
they
your own
warned you not
risk.
to jump down this. Clearly.
Yeah, I'm level 19, and I will use these quests in order to get up to 20 so that I can get my undying credit. Oh, what's down this well? What is this, Mom Purple?
Somebody intent on getting the Undying title isn't going to jump down a well, though.
Well, you do have a point.
They jump down there and it's like, you have entered an area.
Well, yeah, as long as it sends them back somewhere, I guess. But doesn't that usually kill you if you jump down a well?
Usually.
Well, we don't. Well, that's how many wells can you jump down? The only one I know of is the one in the Chamber of Crossroads.
Like I said, doesn't it usually kill you if you jump
That
down?
is the
Usually
main
does
data
kill
point.
you, yes.
I thought that was the whole point, was so that you get closer to the place you need to go for the quest givers.
I mean, that's the reason I keep jumping down it, yes.
It's kind of frustrating when you jump down it and then you don't die.
I've done
Oh,
that. I
man.
have jumped down the one
limping
at
for a
Chamber
minute
of
and a half.
Crossroads. Yeah, I've actually jumped down the one at the Chamber of Crossroads with Terry's character, as a matter of fact. And we both landed, and she died, and I didn't. And I'm just like, huh? How did I survive?
You landed on her.
Maybe I did. She broke my fall. And I broke her spine. I mean,
Oops. Yes. Continuing on with the housing, premium housing brokers, Burginda, Northwind, and Celiflad will now allow you to barter mithril coins to receive premium housing writs. Okay, so apparently they weren't doing that before. The housing quest, Building the Bree Homestead, and There's No Place Like Home, are now available if you own any type of house. I guess it was only working if you had regular houses before.
Oh, it didn't work for the premium housing?
I guess not, because that's the only thing I could think of is the reason they are saying this. Winda Crane's bill is now available at Mickledelving, Kellendam, and Thorns Hall. And she's the one who gives those VIP boosts that we all love.
Yes, and it's very nice not having to go all the way to Bree for that.
Yes. Well, I guess I didn't go to Bree 12. Usually I just boarded to my house, but if your house
yeah, but
is
you
on the
don't
other side.
necessarily have to go all the way to your house either.
Yeah, but I guess it's about the same for me to either go to my house or to go to Mickledelving. As for UI, various issues with the Travel to Kinship members' house skill has been fixed. The examination, as Terry mentioned, the examination tooltip for the Travel to Kinship members' house has been updated, and /load command has been modified to include the world name. That's to make it easier for some developers to do some research, because if there's a bug that's peculiar to a particular server, it might help them to track that down. And there are two known issues, the one with the epic battles I talked about earlier, And with Rohan housing, characters below level 86 cannot access the Rohan Kingstead homesteads from the landscape entrances. They must speak with one of the housing brokers in Snowbourne or Edoras to either tour a house or purchase a house. And from there, they can use housing travel skills to access their neighborhood. Thus, they are planning to fix this one. They're hoping to have both of these fixed in a patch next week. So assuming that all goes well, we'll have a little patch next week. And if things go really well, they might even have the race changes in with it. And that's it for the updates for update 27.2. Then let's also note that transfers have been re-enabled. And they've this means now you can transfer your character between worlds and also transfer items. And in addition to this, they have opened up Bombadil so that you can go into there and transfer your characters. It's not open for questing or anything like that, just so that you could transfer your characters. So it's open up for transfers only. And this is a temporary thing concerning Bombadil being up for this. It's going to be up for a few weeks to allow you to do these transfers. And when this window is closed, they will be, they are going to wipe the server because they're planning to have another event. Whether it's another Tournament of the Twins or another completely different event, we don't know yet. But it will be wiped in preparation for the next event. You have been warned. So if you want that character from Bombadil, please transfer it as soon as you're able. And remember, transfers from Bombadil are free to any of the traditional US or European servers. Of course, transfers are not available to or from the legendary worlds because no. That's still a no-no. Now let's head to the LOTRO Beacon, issue 170, where we are still having Minas Tirith during the wedding festival items. And there we have some people traveling through one of the underpasses. And our community spotlight, Tara Costello, has released her second video for Lord of the Rings Online, featuring her performance of music. Will composer Bill Chamberlain of A Feast of Merenthal, and you can click to watch her to on the link to watch that. And
are you okay, Pine? Because you're just kind of
yeah. There are a couple of things in there that made me stumble in that one.
Well, I think they also meant performance of music with composer.
Yes, that's the thing that was confusing me, and I really was stumbling over Will because it completely did not make sense.
Like, wait, hold up, no.
Yeah. The Tale of Ten Fang is a work of fan fiction that will be performed as a play on Langeable this Wednesday. Click there to read more about the performance. August 12th at the Bree Festival grounds, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern.
I have to admit, if anybody took my fanfic about Morkendir and did a play out of it once I'm done, and my character Morkendir was actually there watching it, that would be like so awkward. I'm not gonna lie, that would be awkward. It's like, but that never happened actually. What's going on? I didn't say that.
Yes. And the question is, how much will they? Because trying to condense the entire story into a 1-hour play or 2-hour play would be quite a tricky one.
Well, this is put on by the same group. It's the Minstrels of Middle Earth. This is the same group that they'll have like people sitting outside the maze during Springfest speaking in Elvish to each other, like telling the story. Sometimes they'll do it in Westron, and sometimes they'll do it in Elvish. It's also the same group that has the bunch of hobbits that rickroll you when you go out the back of the maze. But anyway,
Okay.
so I think they'll do a good job. But I've seen them like at different festivals on Landerval, so it might be lore rich and hopefully concise.
Concise. Weatherstock has been rescheduled for September the 12th because the original date they had to cancel due to the server troubles that they had that weekend. And Trollfinger brings the next installment of Songs from Another Age to the Prancing Pony stage in Brie on Landerville on Sunday at 9 p.m., which means that this is going to be no use to you if you're listening later, unless you're listening to either the YouTube version or are listening live.
Quick,
The
spread the word.
The Oathbreakers are a core group of longtime LOTRO veterans who are looking for others to join them for leveling, dailies, group runs, and raiding. And you click on the link to learn more about this. The Oathbreakers, the Ken Hall highlight for this week.
Which is on Landerval. It took me forever to figure that out.
Oh, yeah, it does help if you give the name of the server for the... But yes, they are a legible kinship.
Yeah, so note for the future for people looking to submit kin thingies, put your kinship home world in there so that we know.
Why is nobody
Yeah.
joining us? Maybe because we don't know where you are.
At least the link goes to a LOTRO forums thread within the legible kinship section.
Yeah, and that was where I found out, but I didn't realize that it said Langeval when I first clicked on it. So I'm like, well, what? Because you go to the kin launch page, and it doesn't actually tell you there either. So if it hadn't been...
Yes, that could make it a challenge. Let's then head into our weekly comment. What do you like the most about Rohan housing?
it?
On the house yet, though.
I don't have a Rohan house yet either
I'm working
because I
on
don't
it.
have the money to buy the Mithril coins for it. But I totally went and looked at the neighborhoods, which I didn't do in beta at all. And I figured out which house I want to buy when I get the coins for it.
Which one?
It's one of the ones in the meadow.
It might be sold out in Meadow by the time you have the funds.
So
Yeah.
here's my related question related to this is, and I've already asked it once, but which neighborhood is better, personal preference wise, the hills or the meadows?
I would think it'll be depending on whether you're a mountain type person or a plains type person.
Well, yes. I was just doing a survey of the group.
I mean,
Well,
I
I
like
will
them
say-
both, and they both have some appeal. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there because
okay.
internet and lag.
Yeah.
I think they both have their various types of appeal. I actually was considering housing in both, but I'm only going to be able to afford one, so it's going to have to be the hills for me because I want the one with the stable, with the extra indoor stable. It's a little one.
That would be Kingstead.
Yes, Kingstead.
Yeah,
Kingstead.
But I was going to say, well, the thing I've liked the most about Rohan housing is with brand new housing opening up that I could actually have neighbors that were friends and people that I knew, not just some random place that actually was still empty in a neighborhood. Uh, but I loved the mountain areas when I saw them on Bulwer the first time when there was the oopsie and they were on the landscape. Sandsman and I went and checked out everything, and I fell in love with the mountains. Yeah, it was great.
Right.
It's the views.
Yeah.
Though
By the
star
way-
watching on the other one is pretty awesome.
This is true.
Luanori in the chat says that there are still houses open in Raven.
That's on Landerball, I believe.
Mhm.
Because he's a neighbor.
Yes. I'll have to go and check out the two neighborhoods. It's been months since I've checked out the neighborhoods, so I haven't made my decision yet on there. In general, I think I like the ones on the plains more, since I always considered ridges to be my arch enemy. But Hobbit. But
Ever since Rivendell, I have a phobia for bridges and
yeah.
horses.
No, not bridges, ridges.
Oh, ridges. Okay, I thought
Yeah.
you meant bridges. Like
No, ridges. Yes.
I was like, Rivendell gave me a bridge phobia when I'm riding a horse. Okay, I can't do bridges. Okay.
No, ridges. Now, I sometimes jokingly say that ridges are my arch enemy because it looks like whenever I encounter a ridge, it takes me half an hour to figure out, now, how do you climb this crazy hill? So
Why
that's,
don't they have signs?
yeah, so that's always been a problem. So that's the reason why I might choose the plains one. But I just want to give the area one more chance to make sure that I find one that I like before I start spinning Mithril.
Yes.
Anyone else have any comments on which their favorite would be?
Not necessarily a comment about favorites, but I think that if you are interested in getting a Rohan house, take the time to look around and kind of look at all the different houses in the neighborhoods and how they're situated within those neighborhoods, because each of the houses are slightly different. And it's just, there's a lot of detail in all of them. So it's really worth it to go through and check them all out.
That is a very good point.
I'm just wondering why they have. Okay, the mead hall is the big one that's up on the hill that you can see Edoras from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know why they made those for sale, because yeah, that's a fight waiting to happen. Because I've looked at them and they're huge, and I'm like,
It's like a kinship house type of thing, only it's not an actual kinship house, so anybody can have it.
yeah.
So you too can have your own meat hall, except I kind of really don't want the meat hall.
If you can find one that's still available.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I noticed that there was one neighborhood that I went into, and one person had taken that one at in the hills in the very back with what looks like on the mountain, and the mead hall, the same person. And I'm like, yeah. So I don't mind if you want more than one house. If you got the money for it, go. That just seems a little excessive. Because I'm like, you literally took the two most unique ones out of this entire neighborhood, and it's. But yeah, other than that, every other hill neighborhood that I was looking at today, the mead hall was already taken. Matter of fact, the mountain one was two different people, except for that one so far. But yeah, I was just like, really? Okay.
Yeah, there might not be many meat halls available in the in the meadows either. I looked at the housing on the day that it opened, and I think there were only 3 left in the meadows, and that was like a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want a meat hall, better get out there and look.
Yes, the meat halls do go quickly, and I have a feeling that some of the people who are taking the meat halls might be kin leaders who want to use it as a kin central area, and they set that as their primary residence so that members of the kinship could port to it using the port
See,
system.
why didn't they just make the meat halls, the kinship house available? Like
They
with
just
literally every other one.
because they decided, because apparently a lot of people have been complaining over the years that individuals cannot buy kin houses, so they decided that they'll try this solution for the Rohan housing.
Yeah, and it's not even that I really want a mead house. I'm just looking at it going, so one person gets to have this huge one, and the rest of us get to have much smaller ones, because there's only one in the entire neighborhood, and they're all gone now. And it's like, well, what if someone else wanted a mead hall? Who's coming in? It's like, well, they're all gone. Yeah, I'm just like I said, I didn't even really want one. It just seems kind of okay. So I have literally all this room. And it's only for me. And even if I'm paying out, the nose for it, a lot of VIP people don't have to pay upkeep. So a VIP could afford to get it and never pay out the nose to upkeep. And it's like, okay, you have like twice the room and twice everything else for one person, but literally everyone else in your neighborhood is looking at you going, dude.
I don't know. I kind of like the smaller houses, to be perfectly honest. I glanced at the mead hall. I kind of rode up to one, and I'm like, yeah, okay, you can have it. And went and found a smaller house that I liked. So, but at least I'm going to buy a Rohan house instead of like the bank vaults. I still am not getting a Belfast bank vault.
And really, the whole purpose of me actually riding up to it was, what the heck is this? And I was because it's so different from the rest of them, and I'm like, okay, this looks way bigger and everything. What kind of house is this? Is it a kinship house? But literally, because every single one of them is taken, I just see like the person who's taking it and like the address, because there's no for sale sign. There's no, I don't even know what it is. It's like I didn't even get a chance to figure out if I wanted it or not, because I don't even know what it is, and now they're all gone.
Oh well, they're huge. That's what they are.
Yeah.
You noted too large for a single person.
Yeah.
Just think of all the cleaning you'd have to do.
That's what the property guards are for, to act as servants.
Oh, that's the point of the goat. Oops.
Well, if Bjornings get bows again and can wield picks, I suppose a goat can clean and dust, maybe vacuum a little. I mean,
yeah. Anyway, so that's the situation down in the Rohan housing. We'll see what we can do about that. Now, there is one little item that they noted, and you drove it out of me. It gets going. All right, I guess I'm not going. But there was another issue that they plan to fix next week that relates in the Rohan housing that I was thinking about all through your conversations. As you just stopped, I forgot what it was.
You remember, like the minute we shut down the show and we're done, you'll be like, "Oh, that was what it was."
Yeah, one of those situations. Let's then head into our fan site news, where last week we talked about how Elrond gave up parenting. On LOTRO Stream is your first stop to find LOTRO on Twitch. This week, Winnie gets to debut Rohan Housing. Glenn and Ori get our newest show going. And Ugur has an epic adventures on Honor. Also on Twitch, JVB Group records a T5 Shelob World First. Wow.
Did they get it on T5? Were they the first ones to actually beat it?
Well, on their world. I don't know if anyone's ever done it on another world. But they would have to be one of the first kins to do it, because I know as of a few weeks back, no one had done it yet.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously one of the first ones to do it, and the first one to do it on their world.
I didn't know if they meant like on their world or like if they were meaning it like it's a world first, like nobody else had done it in our world just yet.
No, I think usually in LOTRO, world first means the first for that particular server.
Okay.
See, Wolf Jarn the Wanderer does a very long stream, and Andang has Voin's Tale. And over on YouTube, Zogog destroys the Vandasar. Zogog finds the city in the ice, and Nexodon does questing and more.
Zogog is just busy.
Yeah,
Destroying
busy.
stuff, finding stuff.
Well, he has to find stuff in order to replace what was destroyed, I guess.
Yeah. It's like, okay, I destroyed the Vandasar. Let's find the city in the ice and
Well, actually, what he did is he destroyed the ice that was covering the city, probably.
Ah.
For a screenshot of the week, Stug is a relatively new player who has sent some of their favorite screenshots, and we thought this would be a nice scene. Thanks for sending it in. Send in your screenshots at support@standingstonegames.com.
Good thing they took that picture when the festival wasn't on, or people would be like racing over them trying to get to Frogmorton to pick up more beer for deliveries. Because I've cut around that hill so many times.
Guilty.
So it's a major highway during festivals.
Well, for the ones who are doing the in-league or ale association deliveries, yes.
And then that is it for our week in LOTRO.
What?
I mean, not for a week.
I was like, wait a minute, did I fall asleep or something?
You had to focus everywhere else. I think.
Apparently my brain did, yes. That's it for the LOTRO Beacon for this week. Let us head into our store sales. Terry, could you please talk, because I've said too much already.
I was gonna reiterate the question that we said earlier. Are you okay, Pine Leaf? Store sales. We have bonus days this weekend, giving us a VIP event through the 13th. Housing carryalls are available in the LOTRO store through August 16th. We have a coupon code. The weekly coupon gets us a scroll of finesse for 90 minutes with the coupon code finesse90 now through August 13th. Reminder that the LOTRO free quest coupon is still available through the end of the month, as well as coupon code thank you gift, which you can use one time per account each to get a bundle of consumables for thank you gift. LOTRO free quest gives you all of the quest packs for like all of the things. Fantastic. For actual sales, we have 25% off keys, legacy tier upgrades, legendary item stat upgrades, and universal solvents. Now through August 13th.
Going back to what I had forgotten earlier, the issue that I was thinking of was that there's a quest that you get to tour the various housing neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
And some people were having trouble completing the quest because part of the quest was to enter into a mead hall in each of the neighborhoods. And of course, you have these people buying up mead halls and not opening access for other people to enter. As a result of this, they are going to be changing that quest slightly. Maybe they could do the same thing at Belfalas, so that you only have to step into the yard in order to get credit for the quest. And that will give you credit to advance the quest, so you don't actually have to step inside of the house in order to get credit for it. Because, boy, that was a real pain back in Belfalas when I was trying to do that quest. and trying to find a house that will allow you to go inside of it.
Yeah, I almost ran into that issue with the Rohan housing as well. I was jumping through neighborhoods trying to find an unclaimed meat hall. But there were some people who were posting in world chat saying, "Hey, mine is open if you guys need it for the quest." So it was kind of cool to see people do that. But yeah, that
Yes,
definitely needs to be fixed.
yes. In fact, Cordovan actually purchased a meat hall in one of the housing neighborhood in the Hills neighborhood, and the first thing he did to it was open it up, and he announced to everyone that this hall is open so that they could go to it. So Cordovan is one of the people who does have an open meat house. I think that was on Landreville. So that's a little issue that they're hoping to fix next week, along with the other issues we described earlier. And that'll be thankful. And I just hope they would think of doing the same thing on Belfalis, but I have a feeling that that could slip through the cracks, perhaps. Let's then, though, head into our site news, where we will begin with Chapter 3 of A Berg's Tale. And Calabathian, what is your Berg up to now?
I'm going to make it short and sweet since we have such a long episode we still have to get through. But Chapter 3, Morkendir is meeting Tom Bombadil for the first time. And the having to get lilies and, then just trying to interact with him and trying to figure out what is his damage. Trying to understand what is going on with this dude and kind of, trying to impart that, this is kind of important what he's doing and, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, kind of it's a short chapter because the author had finals week kind of going for the summer, so at the same time, and I'm like but yeah, he also gets to meet, well, he does he was fighting trees before. It's briefly mentioned because there are walking trees and everything and roots, but this time he gets to meet Old Man Willow, and doesn't really fight Old Man Willow, but gets mouthy at him, I guess you would say, and he has to fight a root as a result, and it's don't mouth off to Old Man Willow, and of
Yeah.
course he gets really tired, exhausted, sleepy because of all the draining energy that happens when you get there, but he makes it out with his prize of white lilies, and goes back and is resting for a minute, with the lilies on him, and waiting for Bombadil to come back. And when he does, there's yeah, Tom basically puts the lilies into a wooden bucket full of water, and Morkendir's like, that I didn't notice before. So he's been laying here with like 4 lilies on him, just dozing off, and it's like, oh, looky there. But before he leaves, he's told that, oh, you have to go to the Barrows and, to find the crows, the Crabane you're after, and, be careful of the dreary lady. And Morkendir is, of course, thinking, the dreary lady, is this like Old Man Willow? Am I fixing to get, like, attacked by some, like, cairn stone that wants to grind my bones to make my bread? I just, what is this? And he's really not looking forward to running around in the Barrows because he, left his horse, his borrowed horse, at the time, back in Buckland, and he has to go on foot. But he goes, this is okay. I'm a burglar. It'll be easier to sneak that way. And as he's going off to, great, gotta go, there's dead people walking around out there. Joy. Now I've got to go in here. Goldberry, calls his name, and they have a brief conversation. And he realizes that the lady he met before when he was helping Adzo carry water from the spring, that really gorgeous lady, is actually this gorgeous lady, and she's married to Tom. And it just kind of clicks, and he's like, why did this not click before? But they chat, and she basically kind of gives, he's been kind of reluctant. He's just like, okay, I'm going to do this and leave. I'm going to do this and leave. I'm going to do this and leave. Someone's going to let me go now. But she actually gives him something to think about, because her thing is, because she's like, I know Tom would take care of this, but I don't. And he's like, oh, but, and you want him to. And she's like, not really, because I would rather he just be Tom. He's capable, but she doesn't want him to do it, because then he wouldn't, necessarily, he would have to basically be someone he's not. He doesn't like having to go a whiting, as he mentioned before. He would rather, try to bring joy to all these dark hearts. And this is more or less this section, because I really can't do the bingo boffin stuff that's running through that side quest. But during that quest on the game, you actually talk, you bring Bingo and everyone over there, but you actually talk to Goldberry, and she says something along these lines. So I'm kind of fudging a little bit and adding it there towards the end, so that I can kind of touch on some of what she's saying about Tom and such, but, and it's kind of relevant to the story itself. So it's kind of doing double duty there. But she pretty much gives him the task of quelling the problems in the Barrows instead of Tom, so that Tom can be Tom. Because as she says at one point, he was the first, capital F, and if this all this bad stuff happens, I'm not going to be here, but he will be the last, capital L. So, yeah, so she kind of gives Morkendir this I guess this task to go find out what's causing the uproar in the Barrows and making all these restless spirits walk around, and fix it for him, if you please. And Morkendir decides that he's going to, and as he's walking off, he remembers that dream he had back in Arquette with Galadriel, though he doesn't know her name right now. Saying that, there's all this stuff happening, and she kept on seeing, the main character, him in this case, having some big part in all of this stuff. He was just always there. And he's trying to say it was just a dream brought on by all that stuff that happened in Arquette. Don't get delusions of grandeur, think you're all important. It was just a dream. And the last thing he thinks of as he's walking, up the Old Barrows Road is more or less, but what if it wasn't? So, yeah, that's just kind of a very short chapter that's exploring a little bit of that and taking him into the Barrows, because the Barrows kind of takes a big chunk. So, A, my offline time was kind of crunched when I needed to write it, and B, the next section is actually going to be kind of long again. So I didn't want to make it, really huge long and have to crunch it and breeze through it and not really give it justice, because I think going into these Barrows actually is important for someone who, is dealing, basically deals a lot with sneaking around and, some of the darker kind of areas of life. As a burglar might, because one of the things that you get, one of the titles is, some of the skills are, actually like assassin skills, and they're more or less called that. So yeah, he's on his kind of emotional journey to figuring out that, okay, I'm not a hero, I'm not a good person, I'm not the best person, I guess it would be a better thing. And yet here I am. And he's coming to, to the point where he's like, okay, he wants to keep going, but he's not there yet. And it's going to take some of this initial stuff before he gets in that mode of, okay, this is something I have to do. I don't know if that means that he's giving up, going, fine, I'll go fight Sauron or something. or if it's, if it's just, he actually comes to realize that, okay, this is my purpose, I might as well just do it. So, yeah. But that's chapter 3. Yeah, that's chapter 3.
And chapter 3 in there.
Chapter 4 next week.
Yeah.
I write it, because I haven't written it yet.
Now, concerning Old Man Willow, back when the game first started,
You did fight him, didn't you?
no, you didn't fight Old Man Willow, but those roots were aggressive.
See, that's what I
Yeah,
could
the roots were
remember. That's
aggressive.
what I remembered. And I saw some of the roots around, but I was like, wait a minute. Didn't these used to attack you?
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, I could have sworn that they did back in the beginning, but they don't now. And I'm like, maybe I was crazy. It's yeah, I was like, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I thought. I'm not crazy. Okay, good.
Yeah. Now,
Well, I mean, I am, but I'm not
Well-
crazy for that reason.
I think they decided that having you trying to pick up these lilies, being attacked by roots, and not having any power in which to defend yourself against said roots was a bit much.
Yeah, I could see that. Let's make it extra challenging.
Yes, and back then, power was a little bit more of a precious resource than it is today.
Yeah.
So if you ever fought anything at a high level with a disease on it, power becomes it's either you got plenty of it or you got zero of it, is what it feels like to me.
It's probably the way it actually is. So, I mean, just I haven't really fought anything high level that drains you like that because I'm not to that point yet.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to it, but okay.
Yeah. Let's then head into an article by Squirrel. Help! I'm level 130. A guide to gearing and dailies for updates 27.2.
I just would have stopped at help. I was like, what? Help! What?
Yes. Yes, this is a guide to focus on gearing for level 130, the weeklies, and other activities once at level cap. So it talks about alternative questing guide for Minas Tirith, gearing up at level 130, jewelry and armor, essences at level 130, trigger essence recycling. He talks a great deal about essences, and he talks about weeklies, and then legendary weapon upgrades. Talk about the various scrolls and the crystals and all, and an ingredients farm for level 130, and moats and all that fun stuff. Then talks about seals and marks for skirmishes, camp items, non-130 instances that may be relevant, trait points, virtues, and speculations about upcoming updates and events. Okay. At the time of this writing, this guide, it's update 27.2 at the start of August. A few notes about upcoming updates and events that could add or change this guide based on stream, personal guesses, and the producer's letter. Remember, this is all speculation. Summer Festival and Farmers Fair, perhaps on Follius Crystals, usually slow, but with Double Festival might be worth it. So the question is, what's going to happen with the Summer Festival and that. Spring, Summer Instance, expected T5 instances and gold pocket item based on last year. Update 28, last big update before the spring expansion, higher standard gear level, replacing Limlock gear and fleshing out crafted teal gear items. That's something that often happens. Raid fall, higher item level gear for Remmerhand, or perhaps other gold gear than helmet. I don't know what plans they may or may not have relating to that. Legendary challenge server, expected class update, and perhaps updates to scale instance gear. Now, this question is what the legendary challenge server is going to be like, the Sauron. We don't know what's going on that, of course, yet, because they have not yet made full announcements on that. But I guess we should be starting to hear stuff on that soon, I guess. And speaking of soon, they said non-dated legendary item update, because we still have that legendary item update that they're hoping to do, but that is still at soon PM.
Soon o'clock.
The infamous soon.
The infamous
Soon.
soon. So that's the guide that he has in there. And that's it for our site news. So let's head into our new player question. Oh, there is no question this week. You wrote that as if it were in the position of the question. The same font as the question.
Sorry. My bad. I just figured since we have a lot to talk about, we could just skip that this week.
Yes.
If that's okay.
Our question is, what's our main topic for this week?
There you go.
And our topic for this week is the Update 26 Quest Pack Review. And we are going to begin this with the new storyline that began with Update 26, which is the Legacy of Durin and Trial of the Dwarves. So they really had to give it a really long name.
Yeah.
Yes, the Legacy of Durin and... And there we go. Yes, the Legacy of Durin and the Trials of the Dwarves. And they had 2 chapters that were opened now. We're expecting Update 28 to have probably a couple of more chapters in there. And of course, the spring expansion, we're expecting that to have the main part of this storyline, because this is all about Durin and the dwarves, their battles against their various foes, such as the orcs and trolls and all. And of course, is going to have a focus on Gundabad. We'll begin this little story with us being back in Scarhold. And you remember that place, right? And we are in Scarhold, right? And we're Scarhold, and we're finding out that there's a great deal of tension amongst the various dwarves that are there. There are 3 types of dwarves that are there. You've got the stout axes, you have the Jelruka, and you have the Longbeards. And each of them have their own opinions on who should lead in there. Because Durin has pretty much taken over and thinks of himself as the de facto leader, because the stout axes, they don't have a real leader right now because they're a bit disorganized ever since having to get out of Mordor and with their king. Well, their king isn't exactly in the best frame of mind, assuming that he wasn't killed. Was the king killed in that?
He got eaten.
He did get killed eventually, right?
He got eaten in that raid.
Yeah. See. Yeah, I forgot that little detail in the raid. It's been a while since I've done it. Yeah, so the king was eaten in a raid. So they're not exactly in their best position of leadership right now. And the leader of the Jelruka in Scarhold got killed during one of the kept promises, which means that Durin is acting as leader in the thing. And of course, the stout axes and the Jelruka aren't exactly completely happy about this. So we are sent out in order to try to find out what the various tensions are. And after we find out about this, we then get kicked off. We begin to get ready to start off the story. But before I go into that, I forgot one little thing in all this. And that is that we've got spoilers in this. And if you want to avoid... Yes, I really should have hit the spoiler alert first. Yes, there are going to be spoilers in here. So if you want to avoid spoilers, I suggest skipping up about 15 minutes up ahead in order to avoid having any spoilers for chapters 1 and 2. Now that we've established that there are tensions between the various groups of dwarves, Durin decides that there are too few Longbeards here, because the Longbeards, there weren't really all that many Longbeards in Scarhold, and there seem to have been more Stout Axes and more Jelruka arriving over time. And he decides to send us to go to his father and ask for reinforcements, so that the Longbeards will be able to defend themselves. When we go over to Thorin and ask for his opinions on the matter, he says, yes, I am going to send those reinforcements. And not only does that, but he tells us why he's sending to us, because there was a time in history when the first Durin had a major hold that had a major stronghold. I think it was that he was keeping. I think it was Gundabad. What was this? Gundabad was the hold here.
I think so.
Right. So he founded Gundabad, and in doing so, at one point, when he was going out to found other areas, he decided to leave a dwarf in charge, his trusted counselor. I mean, who would dare to doubt the integrity of this dwarf, because I believe he invented mead. It was either mead or ale. Some alcoholic drink. Terry, I would think, Terry, you keep track of alcoholic drinks better than I do.
I don't remember.
Okay. Yes. I think he invented meat in there, and you think, no, don't think good of him, because he decided to set himself up as the ruler of Gundabad and declare himself the ruler in defiance of Durin. And of course, Durin came in and taught him a lesson on the matter, saying, I'm sorry, but whack. And so eventually, there was a great deal of enmity between Grey Maul and the Longbeards as a result of this, because Grey Maul went and betrayed Durin, and of course, Durin's folk did not like that in the least. Now, some say that Grey Maul died there then, but others have rumored that perhaps the Grey Mauls are still around. Either way, this is a lesson that you do not necessarily trust any other dwarves. Thus, for the safety of the Longbeards, Thorin not only sent reinforcements, he sent an army.
Because this is going to end so well.
This has got to end so well. Yes. When we return, we find out that Durin has gone to the Anvil. Apparently, he was called there via voice. And when we talked to him and finally...
Yeah, some mysterious voice called him.
Yeah.
It sounds like voice.
No.
No, he was hearing things.
Dwarf Discord?
Well, there's plenty of Dwarf Discord, as we've been showing already. But yes, when we wake him up on it, he turns around to see the reinforcements and sees that it is an army. And there he makes an announcement of what he wants to do. At first, the Jelruka think that he's going to go after the Far Gathal, and he warns them not to go after that. But Durin says, nah, I'm not after some El Dorado. Well, okay, that would be Terry Adwin's words. But I'm not after some fanciful, non-existent legend. There's one place that we are going to take. We are going to take Gundabad.
He exclaimed with great relish.
He did.
Yes,
In the hearing
he
of a
did.
dragon.
Well, there is yes, but doesn't that dragon need a little bit of a rest?
I don't know. That dragon was in pretty high spirits when it sealed us out.
Well, well, there is that little detail. I would trust your memory more on than mine, seeing that I've never had an opportunity to do that raid.
Yeah, we never defeated the dragon. The dragon chased us out. We ran, and then the dragon sealed up wall of ice behind us.
We can only hope that sealed up wall kept the sound from traveling into the dragon's ears. So, at the volume that Durin was yelling, that is a rather
probably.
dim hope.
Yeah.
So we may be seeing that dragon again at some point in the future. We will have to see. But that will be later in the trials, because first we have to worry about orcs and trolls and hobgoblins and goblins and probably a few other things that I can't think of at the moment. Naturally, when we finally all get back to Scarhold, we still have the various clans bickering with each other. And we hope to try to calm things down. When we try to calm them down and everything is decided upon, where Durin decides what we've got to do is we've got to do some scouting in order to find out what's happening in relation to the area near Gundabad, because you can't just go and try to invade Gundabad without knowing the land, because he realizes that would be complete foolishness.
We can't just walk into Mordor. I mean, Gundabad.
Yes. So we will go and do that. And he decided that we will send a Joruka and a Stout Axe, meaning the two that were just bickering, and send them to do the scouting for us. We go and inform them. They look at me and say, I'll tell you what, we will go under one condition. You come with us. Because they figured that
Actually,
if we go...
first they protest that it's just a Zoruka and a Stout Axe and there's no Longbeards coming along.
Well, yeah, he does complain about that too. But in addition to that, he decides, well, we have to make sure that there's someone that he cares about. If he's not willing to send a Longbeard, then at least send you, the player, because he knows that he won't like it if you got killed. So it can't be a suicide mission if you go along with him.
Dwarf logic.
Yeah, dwarf logic in there, yes. Now, in case you wonder why they're arguing in the first place, it appears that one of the Longbeards called one of the Joruka a Grey Maul.
Ooh.
Because he believed that, yes, there must be descendants of Grey Mauls. And
What are Grey Mauls?
I mentioned them earlier, that Grey Maul was the guy who betrayed Durin.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Yes.
I was like, wait a minute. I was like, wait a minute. What? You said that name. I couldn't remember, though, so okay.
Yes, right. In fact, the Joruka had never heard of Grey Maul either, since he wasn't conversant in Longbeard history. But because the Longbeard said it in such a tone that could only be an insult, the Joruka took offense at it.
I don't know what that means, but how dare you?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's pretty much it. We go back to Durin and tell him that they insist that if they go out, they go with me. And he's about to say, there is no way in the world I'll do that, when Glowing says, wait a moment. perhaps it would be wise to look at this in another way from an older perspective, because Gloin is a little bit older than Buren, and said perhaps it would be a good idea to send the character, and in addition, it might be a good idea to send a Longbeard, and I'll volunteer for the job. Thus, we are sent out at the end of chapter 1. We're told to gather up supplies so that we could set out on a quest in order to scout out in the areas for Gundabad for the ending of chapter 1. So chapter 1 ends when we gather up our supplies and getting ready to go out and head away towards the Floodfells in order to scout out the areas south of Gundabad. Then comes chapter 2. And in chapter 2, we arrive in the Floodfells and we find our first camp. And we try to see what little dangers are in the area. For example, one has a nose for danger and is able to find. It could smell warg apparently a mile away. And of course, you know who he sends in order to take care of the warg. And the other one tells us about a waterfall nearby that needs to be seen. All right, so we do some sightseeing while we're there.
As you do.
As you do, yes. And then we do some traveling and go down level. And we learn about an orc raiding party. And we are going out to find out what these orcs are up to. And we want to stop this orc raiding party. And we head down river in order to find them. And eventually we come to Limlock. And at Limlock, just before we reach there, we find a dying orc. And we learn from that orc that the orcs are planning to attack the town of the bears, the settlement of the bears, meaning Limlock, because it's settled by Bjornings. And of course, Glowing saying, okay, we better go out there and try to warn them of the danger that's up ahead. We arrive there and there's no trouble there. It's completely quiet. Where are the raiding orcs? We go inside and the leader of the Bjorning says that, oh, no problem. We've dealt with the orcs. They're all dealt with. No trouble whatsoever. We killed them like we all killed the others. Okay, first we're thinking, okay, everything's fine. Except Gloin says, when did this happen? About a week ago. Then this is a new raiding party. And apparently this is a more subtle raiding party because they seem to be approaching quietly and making preparations to break through. And of course, we're then sent to check the defenses, check everything out, and then the orcs finally attack. We defend them, Limlock is saved, and that concludes chapter 2. And of course, that is where they leave us. So next time, I presume that we're going to pick up in Limlock and then head out for wherever they're going to take us next on our journey. And that's just the beginning. Who knows how many chapters there will be this time. Now, please note that they recommend that you complete the Black Book of Mordor before doing this. Because in the Black Book of Mordor, you learn quite a bit about the Jelruka, since the Jelruka are brought into the storyline, as well are the Stout Axes. So if you have that little bit of a background, then that will help you understand the tensions that are between these various groups. Then with that done, let us head into the next section here, and that is the landscape. Anyone have anything comments about the landscape in Update 26?
I want to live there.
What,
Sorry.
in
I want
Lindleby
to
or
live
someplace else?
I want to live in Lindleby.
Yes.
Just anywhere in that region, it's beautiful. I mean, there's a lot of mobs you gotta watch out for, but it's still beautiful.
Well, yes, there is that. I have a feeling that Terry wouldn't want. Well, she might. Well, let's see. I'm trying to think. Is there any place where Terry would be willing to live? Because I know she doesn't want to live near bears.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of bear neighbors.
Yeah.
But I would totally get Lindleby housing in a heartbeat.
Lindleby housing.
Because you can totally ignore the fact that there's bears down the road.
Well, there is that. I'm just thinking that Lindleby housing will be hard to justify, considering that they tend to be a reclusive people.
No, we completely earned our place there.
Or maybe it could be
Well-
like Lindleby-esque. Could be exactly like Lindleby because we saw it and we want to copy it. And
New Lindleby.
yeah. Next door neighbors to Old Lindleby. But not like so close that we creep them out.
Yeah, because we don't want to disturb them too much, right? So yes, Lindleby is gorgeous. And landscaping is pretty well done. Though there are the headaches of some of the bridges, because we have a few bridges that are out there because ruins.
Is this the area where Pine Leaf learned that you really need to stay on the road?
Well, there is that little detail also. Yes. So we have a couple places where you run into ridges. I told you, ridges are my arch enemy. The bridges are out and the ridges are high. That's sort of the theme for this particular area. So sometimes you have a makeshift bridge that is next to the bridge that is out so that you're able to cross anyway. Or sometimes they have makeshift repairs over them. So this looks like a area with a great number of ruins. And that you have people inhabiting the area trying to resettle an area that used to be unsettled. That's the feel all the way through. And of course, this is the area that has the Middle Earth equivalent of a crop circle, right? You're talking about the White Mare.
Oh yeah, the white mare.
Yes, the White Mare, which is quite a feat, especially when you consider that the White Mare had to have been made before the Aerlingus left that area and headed south, since it was obviously created by the Aerlingus, or at least the predecessors of the Aerlingus. And that moved and that thing is this really impressive thing out there and can be readily seen from Nimlock, though it was a little while before I learned how readily it could be seen and that it's best seen from a distance. So it was obviously something that was very carefully planned out and executed, and for it to still be visible, because very often you'd have grass growing into cracks and breaking up, making it harder and harder to see over the years. So it's rather impressive that you can still see. Or perhaps maybe it used to be a lot more impressive and that there are some areas which are breaking apart. Didn't think about that.
I didn't take a look when we were when we were up close, but that is a possibility.
Yeah. Anyone else have any comments on the white mare, on any other parts of the landscape? Or
I don't recall seeing much like grass growing in the areas where it's supposed to be white. It almost looked like rough, like gravel or something, which would make you think that grass would grow in it. But very much the Uffington horse in the UK that looks like that. They actually have on the landscape in the United Kingdom and in England something that looks similar.
oh, they do.
Oh yes.
Oh, I didn't know about that. What's it called again?
I will link it here in the Discord chat. The Uffington White Horse is the name of it. Uffington is the village that it's above.
Right. Where did you put the link?
Putting it now.
Oh, okay. I thought it was already there. Oh my goodness gracious!
Exactly.
The Uffington White Horse. Oh, and it's prehistoric, which means that it will be prehistoric. Then would mean it's more than 2,000 years old.
The local parish will go up there and clean it up and make sure it stays that way. It's in the white chalk, the White Cliffs of Dover.
Okay.
It's it is into the hillside there where you can see the white chalk underneath all the turf.
That's really cool.
That's very interesting in there. Yes. I'll have to go and read that article a bit further in there. But yes, I could see what they probably modeled out of it in LOTRO was probably had that as an inspiration for this. Thank you for that.
Welcome.
And then we had the Rohirric version of the Uffington horse, and we had Lindleby. Any other highlights you can think of?
Trolls.
I meant landscape, not mobs.
Well, the trolls were on the landscape. We have a whole village of trolls. Also, there was a really nifty little giant enclave that was kind of tucked away.
That looked very similar to the giant enclave on the other side of the Misty Mountains.
Yes.
How to decorate with large granite slabs.
Giantess
I'm sure it's
culture.
a skill.
Yes. All right.
I wouldn't want to play Jenga against a giant. Anyway.
Giant Jenga.
Giant Jenga. Oh my goodness gracious. That would be quite a game. Especially if you're in the area when the whole thing collapses. Then, with that out of the landscape, let's look into the quests. And I'm going to begin slightly separately with the history of the Rohan section, because that's its own little thread outside of many of the other quests that are going on in there. And in this, you're escorting a scholar who's from Rohan, and he wants to know more about the history of the Rohirrim. And this looks like that this was done as first of all, a secondary series of quests, but also might have been devised as a way to get you from the various points to the other without having them necessarily being directed from the other quest givers. And while I don't think that was necessary in most of the areas, it was certainly necessary for Lindleby because most of the other people don't know about Lindleby. So he's able then to take you over into Lindleby, and because you could now be in the area near Lindleby, you could activate the quests there and the eagle who's protecting them. But in this case, you go all the way through the history of the Aerlingus, all the way from the roots, from the earliest times, and he goes through the various leaders that they have, starting with the ruins that are near the Bjorninghus up in the Vales of Ondoing, and then proceeding down into the Floodfells and into that land there, into the various ruins there. Because many of the ruins that you have decorating in that area are from the earlier days of the Rohirrim, before that was their name. And you learn about their lineage. They have all the various leaders they had over the years, going from the earliest one that he knows about, going down all the way to Errol, who's the one who eventually leads them down into what's now Rohan. And also very important in this entire thread is this whole thing about some of these leaders deciding, I'm going to try to ride one of these white horses. Which inevitably doesn't work well. Advice: if you see a wild white horse in the area, don't attempt to ride it. Because there are several chieftains of this group who lie dead as a result of this. And in fact, Errol, the only reason why he tames one is because he finally approaches it in a different way, because he wants revenge for his father. He's thinking of killing him instead, but he says that you have a were-guild for us, and you have to allow me to ride you, because that's what you owe me for taking away my father. And that's how he finally tames one of the white horses, and starts to tie the Maris with the kings of Rohan as a result. Since Errol, of course, becomes... Well, I don't think he was literally a king of Rohan, because I think he gets killed in the battle in there. So I can't, but the kings are descendant. Either he's... I can't remember. Is he considered a king of Rohan, or is he considered that the first king is his son, or I forgot that little detail at the moment in there. That's a little piece of trivia that I've forgotten. So we go through all the history of the Rohan in there, and he leaves at the end with the possibility that we will be going into deeper into the history. I don't know whether that's going to be before, well, obviously it won't be after, because you will get all that history in Rohan, or if it's going to be trying to fill in gaps from what stories he's already told us. And of course, we've got the other quests. What do you think about the other quests? I know Terry's going, bears.
Stupid bears. Chores for bears.
Yeah, that's pretty much many of the quests in here is, yeah, chores for bears. That's what we tend to be doing. Now, Lindleby is, of course, hobbit quests instead of chores for bears. So you're either doing things for bears or you're doing hobbit quests. Is there any other categories of quests you're doing that's outside of the history and, of course, the new series? Sans?
Well, there's.
Or yeah.
I was just gonna say, after you get done with everything, there's the goblin smacking quests that you do every day.
Yeah, the goblin dailies. Those are fun.
Oh,
Go out
yes.
and smack goblins around.
Let's go and smack goblins. Yes, there is that. Anyone here have any favorite quests that they like? I know Terry likes killing trolls.
I do like killing trolls. It was interesting to have a presentation of a different type of eagle from what we've seen previously. Like,
Oh, yeah.
like we have all these noble eagles, and then you have the one that's not really all that noble.
Yeah, but you get a fooling by going and setting a campfire.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he does have a way of getting in the way.
It's kind of like it's kind of like dealing with a toddler and getting them to do what you want them to if they're having a bad day.
Dealing with a toddler. Toddler eagles. Yeah, there is that. So we do have the interaction with the eagles so that we can do what we need to do relating to the trolls and all that stuff. So that was a little bit of a humorous quest that we had in there. Any other memorable? Of course, we did have the one where we were sent to that old dwarven hall, which was this big, huge, underground, annoying area. At least that's what it felt like to me.
Well, actually, it was an underground because you fall off one of those bridges and you're done for. I mean, I wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah, we wouldn't know anything about that either. Right, Terry?
No, I totally know about nothing about that whatsoever.
All I know is I was so glad I was with the captain because he could summon me back to where we were. We could keep going.
Yeah. As
Yeah,
long as the captain
I
doesn't
had
fall.
to run back from the landscape.
Oh, Sundergrad.
Yeah, Sundergrad. Thank you. Thank you for that name. Yes. Yes, Sundergrad. Oh boy, that was a pain.
Although it was kind of hilarious to listen to the enemies chatter afterwards, like when you're spying on the meeting.
Oh yeah, yes, that instance is wonderful. After all that you did in there, and you spy on the meeting.
I don't like that Ruza at the end is kind of like, oh, this. I think we found out that this is a useful dwarf hold. We got to bring it back to Scarhold. I'm thinking, no, the dragons were bad enough. Why do you guys keep doing this? You're kidding.
Dwarves. I guess maybe they're thinking that maybe we could take over Sundergrad and use that as a base of operations for working on Gundabad as a first foothold. Because Scarhold's a bit far away, I think, in order to use as your base camp. And it's going to take a great deal in order to be able to do anything relating to Gundabad. And you need a strong base in that area. So, yes.
Boy, Pine, don't say that, because then that means we're going to have to go back in there again to take it.
Well, don't worry. They're severely weakened after what we did to them.
I'm pretty sure it's a little too far south.
Yes, it is. It is a bit far south. All right, I will give you that. It is a bit on the way south, and we probably want a place that's a little bit more northerly
like
for that.
Framsburg. You can set up at Framsburg.
Well, Framsburg, I don't think is as defensible.
It's not a dwarven stronghold, but that's totally defensible. There's still walls.
Well, yeah. I guess we just have to take care of the drakes. Oh, that's right. You do have the underground area to Framsburg. Now that I think of it. Yeah.
Anybody have Humphrey Rumming's number? He could come and take the eggs. I'm sure he'd be thrilled.
He will be thrilled. Oh, yeah. Humphrey Rummings. Yes. Humphrey Rummings' number. Yes,
and we would have great titles for this episode if we actually were doing titles for this episode.
Yes, we would. Yeah. All right. So yes, the quests so those quests are quite memorable in there. So we had quite a variety of them. We have the underground ones against the goblins in Sundagrot. We had the Hobbit quest in Lilby. We had the bear quest going all over the place, killing trolls and all sorts of things to do. So it was quite a variety of them. So it wasn't all one type of quest going on in there. Now, mobs. Now, Terry, of course, already has mentioned
Trolls.
trolls. Yes. We had this nice little area of trolls, and Terry seems to love killing trolls.
Why would you not love killing trolls?
Well, there's a point with that.
It's the noise they make when they go kaboom and they fall. It's so nice. It's very satisfying.
Yes. So you have some
Barring Moon Max, right, Sans?
Exactly.
Yes. So we have the usual things. We have the trolls that you can kill all over the place. You got orcs. You've got a couple of hobgoblins. Not as many hobgoblins as you have orcs and goblins. And that little enclave that Terry mentioned earlier of the
Giants.
of the giants.
Badgers. So many badgers.
Oh yeah,
then there's
badgers.
Dratted wood trolls that will always stun me no matter where I am.
Yeah, the wood trolls are a bit of a pain also. Yes, those are a mixture of those mobs. Essentially, a lot of big things that love stunning, it looks like. Because trolls, they love stunning. Hobgoblins, they love stunning, unfortunately.
Oh, then there's the Work Riders, which I guess I'm glad that I arrived in time for them not to act like they were pathing like they were in Rohan. Wasn't that a thing?
Yes,
That was a thing, yes.
Yes, when they first released it, they were being treated as Rohan Warsteig opponents rather than as regular
combat enemies. They were annoying enough. Yeah, they're annoying enough. Not as many combat enemies.
Yeah. And anybody else have any other comments they wish to make over this? We've talked a bit about the quests, about the landscape, about the history, the quests in general. Mobs, anyone have any other thing they wish to add relating to this update? Right, and just remember though that this is just the beginning of our next major series of updates because there'll be a great many of them up in the north. We may occasionally be called south in order to check things out because there was update 27, which brought us to the wedding so that we could have that in time for midsummer. But outside of that, I have a feeling that most of our time in the future is going to be spent up in the north trying to see what we can do to satisfy some crazy scheme of the dwarves. Is everybody ready to try to give a grade? Senswinda, what would you give this?
I would give this an A. I really enjoyed the area, the scenery, the mobs, the fact that they let multiples of us go into instances requiring combat. The fact that Lindleby exists might bump it to like an A+. It was very well done, and I had a blast going through, and I really enjoyed the fact that the quest rewards were helpful. Like, my players got good gear, they got usable things for their allies. It was a very pleasurable experience questing through the area.
Oh, yes. Having usable gear, and you would know that a lot better than I would, considering that I don't do the high-end quests nearly as much as you do.
I mean, you can get better gear still from the adventurers barterers, but the gear that they were giving out was pretty close and would totally get you a good way towards being able to do instances with your kinship or whatever else until you got your raid armor. So,
all right. Terry Adwin, what do you give it?
I also would give it an A. I thoroughly enjoyed the area, even with the annoyance of helping bears. I love that you had the option of not helping the bears, like you could go help dwarves first. And then Lindleby is fantastic, but I honestly really, 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 really loved, like my favorite part of the update was the fact that you go through the history of the Rohirrim. That to me was just some absolutely top-notch storytelling. Like it was really, really good. Even the annoyance of the go in and then go out and then go in and then go out and then go kill some things and then come back. Yeah, I was just I wanted to find out what happened next.
Yes, that is true. You do
Also,
keep on wanting to get more.
Since we're still in spoilers, I really thought it was fantastic that they gave the Rohirrim a female leader in their history. I thought it was great.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Calabathian.
I haven't been able to get to all these new areas yet, so I'm gonna have to kind of abstain from my grading because everything I hear is really positive though. So if I did do a grade, it would have to be like an A with a little asterisk by it, just because I haven't been there myself yet. I'm not there yet, so
I will put down an abstain. Guarendis.
Solid A. I think it was a great introduction to the new stuff that they're going to be giving us. I loved the scenery in the area. The storytelling was really good. Of course, I might be a little bit partial because I am in a kin that kind of refers to Eowyn as our kind of lady to look up to type of thing. So, nice and white lady. So Rohan's, kind of a favorite, but I loved it. I loved it. I can't wait for more.
Yes, this was a wonderful series here. I'm going to give it an A also. I would think that the annoyance of that dwarven hold is the only thing that keeps it from getting a plus on it.
but at least you could bring your friends.
At least you can bring your friends to that final instance. Yes. And that's it for our Update 26 quest pack review. So let's then head into our week in LOTRO. Calabathian?
yes. Let's see. I went scouting for Rohan housing on Celevorn, and I'm glad I did using him, since the Meadows area requires a 3-mile ride uphill both ways through the snow, surrounded by Rohan enemies like wargs and half-orc horsemen. My thing with that is that if anyone who is not like leveled for that area but can get housing tries to get in there, they're going to die, because on the way there was a horseman like circling around the area. I passed one going to it, and there was a warg I passed going to it, a roving warg, and I'm like, dude, if I was not level 100 something right now, if I was on level or below level for this place, but I wanted, to check out the meadows here, that distance we ride through them, I mean, unless they are not going to aggro on me, that's not right, because that doesn't happen with the hill area. you pretty much wind up, boom, right at the entrance to the hill area, but you have to get into the meadows with like a a nice little ride through all this stuff, and I'm like, what's going on? So yeah, there was that. The rejects ran around the Great Barrows for fun last Saturday, and we managed not to die at all, not even once. So there was yay. I mean, we totally did that. And we seem to be a balanced group for a bunch of misfits. Yeah. And then we went adventuring on Arkenstone for the Academy, and we ran some skirmishes. We did not apparently skirmish responsibly. Oops. And then we also ended that run with a trip to our kin house and some drinks from the Sinister Keg. So, Glorindus, how about you? How was your week?
Well, of course, the big news of the week: new housing. I got a house in the mountains and started enjoying questing the neighborhood and taking a look at things. And I discovered, looking on Deco de Menu, they had an article that they gave me a cradle. My elf's running around with the captain, and there's not very many elf human relationships like that. I don't need a cradle. And I saw that they had these really cool things for the Kingstead one. And since I had got enough with the housing writ sale, I was able to finagle enough that I could have got a mead hall. Everybody keeps calling them kin houses, and they aren't. A mead hall if I'd wanted to. I only had to buy like 3 more at regular mithril price to get a very, very small one in the Kingstead. So now I have 2 houses, and my idea was I was going to sell the Kingstead one, but then friends started moving in around me, so I guess I have 2 houses. That got me very, very, very distracted, although it did lead to me wanting to get Rohan stuff for the house, and Hootbolt is actually busy right now. I don't think I've ever seen it busy the whole time I've been questing. And also did some deeding in Farinorian because the writers of Rohan there have some cool stuff too. And there were people working that area too. It wasn't just Sans and I going around and killing things. So yeah, I mean, that kind of got me distracted. So not much questing on any of my alts. Before the Great Land Rush, I did finish the Wells of Langflood. I'm into the point now where all I have to do is a reclamation for Minas Morgul, all that kind of stuff, and then I will be done with that. And I started smacking goblins in the wells, so I have those kind of things I've been doing. I kind of have the reclamation blues though, because oh my goodness, it's just I don't want to go back to Minas Morgul. Could somebody? Can I like? Yeah. Anyway, and I was Operation Barrows has been fun. I was part of the group that was well balanced bunch of misfit fun there. And I also participated in Operation Barrowbury for Sanswinda's Hobbitburg Burglera, and that was a lot of fun too. Arindis, what did you get up to this week?
This week I actually had quite a bit. Like everyone else so far, also purchased a new house in Rohan. So Guer, you are not the only person with 2 houses. Debating about getting an additional, like one Rohan house in each neighborhood, but we'll see. My main character that I'm running through is in Galtrev right now, so the fact that I could actually go to Rohan on one of my Valard characters and run around and kind of freak out over everything in Rohan was kind of a sidebar of that. It was pretty fun. I also created some new outfits for some of the alts I play most often. I went a little bit crazy with cosmetics this week. Terry would have approved, I think. Shout out to all the LOTRO cosmetic blogs out there. You guys are awesome. I also created and leveled up a lore master for the first time to play with the Rejects group. My Bjorning was found to be technically not rule appropriate for the group. So since we're supposed to be playing stuff that we don't necessarily enjoy or that we haven't played before, and since I'm one of those people that enjoys playing the Bjornings, it didn't fit. So we now have a lore master, which I have never done before. It's been interesting, to say the least. But it's been fun so far. Saint Swinda, how was your week?
My week was good. I did several things with people who were here who mentioned them, and they were lots of fun. But my biggest highlight of this week was I purchased Rohan housing in 2 neighborhoods, and started rebuilding Heightbold in earnest. Sanswinda has always had good intentions that just never followed through because I didn't have good rep with the different people. Like, my Wold rep was barely friend, and my Setcrofts and Norcrofts rep were both acquaintance, and my Intwish Vale was still friend. It was almost ally, though. And, that's a lot of questing, that's a lot of work. You can't really do anything in Heightbold without a reputation. And so Cinders and I started questing in the different areas for rep, and started rebuilding Heightbold. And half of Heightbold for me now looks amazing, and half of it is still really burnt, and it's really disconcerting. Especially like the half of the mead hall that looks fabulous, and then there's still totally burnt out areas, like they didn't have time to mop. And they're all just standing around like this is perfectly normal. Which is really funny to me. This is totally normal that this bar right behind me is totally burnt out and I can't really touch it. So that's been kind of fun. And I ran through the barrows for Barrow Brie on 2 alts. My first was my Runekeeper Dwarf with Maven and Nitesh and our Runekeeper group. And I was the only one who got Barrow Brie, but I got it twice. And since you can't share it with anybody, I ate it twice. And then our Runekeepers stood around in South Brie healing me until they got bored of healing me. So then I was healing me, but then I realized that I could rename my stone. And so I was like, oh, well, they put out their stones to rename them. Surely if I put out my stone to rename it, I'm going to be fine for the few seconds that it takes to rename a stone. And I died. So
Not so much.
I lasted 12 minutes and then discovered that no, I actually needed to keep healing myself if I wanted to stay alive. But my healing was working until I got distracted and tried to name my stone. So there was that. And 20 minutes is a long time to try to heal through, though. So, oh well. And I finished all of the Snowborn quests for the first time this week. And that was a really cool last instance. And I enjoyed it greatly. That was all. How was your week, Terry?
Well, I'll tell you in a minute. Oh, so yeah, Operation Great Barrow. I led that group, which is funny because I had just run it the night before with the Academy field trip, but it's a totally different group. So I had to explain the instance all over again, but fortunately I had just had a refresher because we had just done it. So we actually got through it a lot better with the Rejects group than the field trip group. Probably because when I said don't move through the puddles, they actually took me seriously and didn't try moving through the puddles. And we got really lucky and the worms weren't knocking us around. Did we even have anybody die? I don't remember if anybody died or not.
Well, I did get knocked by a worm, but he knocked me out of the puddle, so there
Yeah,
you
he
go.
knocked you out of the puddle. So that was fun. But we only did the first 2 instances. We did the maze and theater. We didn't actually get to Sandbrog, so still have to finish clearing out the barrow. Other champion went on a crafting binge because I remembered that I had gotten him the recipes for the pipeweed that you get in Lindleby. So other champion, who is my farm cook crafter, promptly crafted up lots of pipeweed. And when I say lots of pipeweed, I'm talking like 1,100 pouches is what I came away with for one of the things.
Goodness. Wow.
Yeah, so when I said I had lots of pipeweed, so it turns out that for the Lindleby fields, 2 of them actually also produce supreme pipeweed, like in greater numbers than you get the Lindleby stuff. So I probably got about triple of the supreme pipeweed what I got out of the Lindleby pipeweed, which is the Fungos Fuzzy Leaf and the Goldfire. So I have lots of Goldfire and Fungos Fuzzy Leaf. And that's that's after sending it to people, I still have lots. Because House Square Endus had already gotten some pipeweed that I farmed up because I was just playing with pipeweed at one point. Trying to see how much I would need to do in order to get to the Supreme tier. And man, I went through lots of apprentice stuff to get to the Supreme tier, and it turns out that you don't actually have to do that anymore. You can just get the Lindleby weed and farm that. Cause yeah. So that was fun. I discovered that farming is a lot of fun when you have the VIP boost on. Because I hadn't really realized that VIP potion thingy that you get, which prevents you from taking damage of any so it saves on your repair bills for eternity, or at least as long as you're using the potion. So I was using it for that, and I forgot that it basically reduces your craft time. So I basically planted 10 fields in 2 seconds, and then took a little bit longer to harvest them all, but yeah, and then processing through all of that was also no time whatsoever. So I did all of that crafting in a fraction of the time that I would have previously done all of that crafting. So probably will end up doing more farming cooking stuff on another champion. And then I joined the field trip briefly at the end of the Gondaman skirmish, because they were in the middle of Gondaman as I'm logging in, and they didn't actually say what they were doing. I figured out what they were doing based on what they were talking about. Oh, it's north. Oh, it's south. Oh, let's go west. And I'm like, oh, you guys are in Gondaman. yeah, we are. Okay, then. Brought in a Runekeeper and helped take down the boss, and that was the first time that my character had done the Gondaman skirmish, because I don't like that one. And then we drank from the Inlake Sinister Keg, and that one's weird because I actually really thought that it would take us someplace dangerous, but I ended up in Dweeland in the Scholars Enclave, and I didn't know that they had a Scholars Enclave in Dweeland, but nope, that's where we ended up. So went down to with 2 of the other members. It's funny, all 3 of us who were elves, so there were 2 regular elves and a high elf, we all ended up in the Scholars Enclave. So we went down to Kellendim, and I parked my Runekeeper by the VIP vendor person so that she's ready to start her next adventure, hopefully, maybe fingers crossed, next week. Pineleaf, how about your week?
And I'll begin with my Honor Warden, who headed into Western Rohan with the release of the next area in the Legendary server, and I continued my complete Pineleaf series, started Season 6, which is, of course, going to be centered in Western Rohan. So I went back into there and defied the king who had exiled me back in the previous season, and somehow managed to keep my head throughout the whole thing. Then during the field trip, our low-level group ran 2 skirmishes, Trouble in Tuckborough and Siege of Gondaman, and Terry gave a nice full description of Gondaman in there.
Well, no, I just said that you guys were going north, south, and west, and that's what I figured out what you were doing.
Well, yes. But that pretty much sums up Gondaman overall. Then for Friday Night Fights, the upper group, we had members who were from 105 to 130, and we had 12 people. So we thought, all right, we have 12 people who are 105 and higher. Let's do a raid. Let's do some skirmish raids. So we set the skirmish raids for level 110. So we warmed up with the Battle of Deepway at tier 1. And someone thought, well then, it looks like we're all ready. Let's try Icy at tier 3.
Famous last words.
How many times did you guys die?
Well, the good news is we did not wipe.
Really?
At any point in there, right? Because half of us were still standing at the end of the boss fight. And we managed to finish up without resetting the boss or anyone dying in there. Now, I believe 5, maybe 6 people did die during the course of that boss fight, including anyone I think who was under level cap. And a lot of our squishies, I think, died during that. I know that's a big, huge shock. But yes, we actually managed to complete. Now, remember, it was set at 110, and the majority of us were 130s, but we're talking about Icy at tier 3. At even
that's
20
brutal.
levels below you, it still can get brutal. And I think I pretty much barely got through that one, and I think a couple of the others in there. But we managed it, got all the way through. The week closed off with Trouble in Tuckborough. And that was once again set at tier 3. And this one was...
Yeah, but after Icy, it's probably a piece of cake to do Tuckborough at tier 3.
Yeah, I guess you got a point there. Yes, if you could survive Icy Crevasse at tier 3, then surviving Trouble in Tuckborough is probably not going to be as bad because you don't have to worry about that mob density in there. Now, we did have the whole question about trying to make sure we controlled the boss fight properly, but I think we controlled the boss fight better there than we did during the field trip, because during the field trip, we had the problem where I said, all right, Lieutenant coming in, and I didn't realize that the rest of the party didn't realize that was a signal to switch to the lieutenant. And then I said, a moment later, the second lieutenant pops in. 10 moment later, the third lieutenant pops in. So we wound up having I believe we had remember what the lieutenants, because do you remember what lieutenants we had in that boss fight? Because I remember some.
I wasn't in Tuckborough.
Yeah. I was hoping Sans Window would remember.
Which boss fight?
For Trouble in Tuckborough, when the lieutenant's coming in.
When we killed the boss just as you told us to stop hitting it?
Yes, that one.
Yes, I do remember that. Pine Leaf said stop hitting the boss, and we said, okay.
Anyway, fortunately that did not happen in the tier 3 raid, and that we were able to keep things a little bit more control into there. And we were able to get through that without any significant issues. Ooh, we currently have 14 supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to join this illustrious raid and help support LOTRO players, go to the donations page where you can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. The money will be used for our podcast hosting, website hosting, and to pay for our live shows. We did not receive any emails this week, but if you like send one, you can send it to podcast@LOTROplayers.com. You can also Twitter the Players Alliance at PlayersLI, LOTRO Players at LOTRO Players, Arendis at Arendis, Pineleaf Needles at Pineleaf Needles, Sanswinda at Sanswinda, Terry Edwin at Terry Edwin, Guarendis at Guarendis, and Calabathian at Calabathian. The Players Alliance has 3 shows on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. We have DDO Players News on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. We have LOTRO Players News. And if you want to know when XP Quest starts, you should follow at XP Quest on Twitter. But please be warned that XP Quest is not Pineleaf friendly. You can source for our shows at lootplayers.com/live. And that is all for night. And this is Prime Mules reminding you to socialize responsibly.